I recall you spent some time on Headbangers Ball, I think with Probot at least.
It was Probot.
Tell us a little bit about like that experience.
Well, it was really cool actually, because basically what it was is like, okay, Grohl, he came up with the concept Probot, but he wanted to get back. This record was designed for him to sort of get back to his roots, because he obviously became a pop dude. Mm-hmm. So, but he's a great guy and he's a great songwriter and he is a rocker to the bone, no matter what. And so, like he basically, I was on tour and he sent my wife at the time. He sent a tape, and he said, I'd really like Wino to be on this, and I want him to write lyrics and play guitar on this song. Man, and I listened to that song and it was right up my alley. I loved everything about it. So like I was reading this, I was studying some ancient Babylonian cuneiform, and so I had the words. It's about like, the emerald tablets underneath the paws of the Sphinx, allegedly. But at the very beginning of that song, I do a little speaking thing. That's actually an ancient Babylonian poem that's translated off of cuneiform stela. So, I tried to get with it as deep as I could. And like, we were I actually got to record it with David. We were going to do it at his place in Virginia because I lived in Maryland. But he left his machine on for 6 months, his tape machine. So it was burned up. So we went to Dodgy and Tara, inner ear, where all the DC punks did all their stuff. That was like, Fugazi and all that. So, so we did it there, and like he was there with his engineer. And I remember, they rolled in like a Vox AC30, but luckily I had a distortion box, and I put a fresh battery in it, had it near the door just in case, because I knew it was going to be sabotaged without it, So we had pulled it off, and I thought
who was on that show when you went? Like who all was there with you at
in the studio and recorded it, and then of course we did. Then we got the call to do. Two things happened. The first thing was the big interview thing where we got swept around all day long. It was like basically it was Snake, me, Grohl, of course, Grohl's guy that played bass in his band that's now his engineer. That'll come to me too in a second. But who else was there? Oh yeah, Eric Wagner, of course. There. So basically, he flew everybody in, and but as far as like actually playing live, it was me. Nick Raskulinecz, who I'm thinking about. So playing live, it was me, Greg Anderson on guitar, David on drums, Nick Raskulinecz on bass, and Eric Wagner on vocals, because we were doing Eric's song off Probot, My Tortured Soul. So basically, the first thing we did was we showed up at the place to rehearse. And so we rehearsed it a bunch of times. And then that was all catered and everything. It was really cool, man. They treated us real good. Put us up in the Chelsea. And then the next day we went around in this black town car. Now it's everybody. Snake, Greg, me, Nick. Went around to all these different, magazines and stuff, and did like, pictures, and like we went to them basically. So the last one, okay, here, this is the best story of this whole thing. Okay, so early in my career, like when I was still in St. Vitus, Kerrang magazine slandered me. Okay, now the reason I found out about it is because I was walking down the street and I passed one of my friends. This was in Hollywood, and he goes, "Man, when did you get out?" I was like, "What do you mean? When did I get out?" He goes, "Well, you robbed that liquor store and all this. I read about it in Kerrang magazine." I was like, "What?" I said, "Who's on the cover?" He said, "Bob's over here." I said, "Okay." So I stomped down to Bleecker Bob's, man. There it was. Bought the fucking copy. In the like News from the USA, there's a column called News from the USA, right? By this guy, Don King. It was like, I can still tell you how it started. It said, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Brilliant, yet erratic. St. Vitus singer frontman, Wino, had just gotten out from being in L.A. jail for robbing a liquor store," right? Utterly false. Like,
wow.
How the fuck did he get that, So basically, I was at another friend of mine's house, and we were sitting around playing guitar with this dude, and it turns out he's a lawyer. And it turns out he's like a junior partner at this big fucking law firm. So I started a lawsuit against Kerrang because that was just beyond the pale, man,
Sure.
We didn't have any money. I remember sitting across from the dude in Beverly Hills, across from my friend, at his big desk, and I was like, well, I said, I don't really have any money, but I just remember I threw a bag of fucking shit on his desk, and he was like, okay. That was like, that was how I retained him,
Damn. Wow.
But eventually we got busted. We all got busted together, and he was there too as a lawyer guy, and that ended his career and also ended my lawsuit.
Wow. Yeah.
But back to Probot though. Okay, so here we are, years and years later. We're in the elevator, the last interview we're going to do, and I said, "Who's this guy?" And Dave goes, "Oh, it's this guy Don King." And I was like, "Really?" It was such a long way up in the elevator that I told all these guys in Probot the whole story. You know, and Dave was just like, "You're not going to kill the guy." I said, "No." As soon as Don King saw me, he made me last. He waited until like he tried to run the clock out, so I didn't have to sit down and talk to him. But he had no choice. He had no choice, and finally, me and him were talking. And you know, to be honest with you, I can't even really remember how it went down. I mean, I wasn't like, you know, I was just happy to be there with, you know, David and all. I wasn't trying to embarrass anybody, but I think I did call him out on it. I can't remember what he said, but whatever it was fucking bullshit, and he's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah. Who was the host of Headbangers Ball at that time?
Oh, Jamie Johnson. So like after all the interviews, that's when we hit, you know, the studio, which was right above, I think, 42nd Street, and Jamie Johnson was hosting, and then that was fantastic. We all talked, and then you know, then we played that song with Eric. Eric was wearing his Elvis shirt, like in studs, you know.
Nice.
I